Stop trying to convince people who don't believe in you. Stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided you're not enough. Stop defending your worth to people who are invested in your failure. You're wasting time you can never get back trying to change minds that were never open in the first place. And while you're busy proving yourself to people who will never celebrate you, you're ignoring the opportunities right in front of you, the people who do believe in you. The future that's waiting for you to stop looking backward. Here's what you need to understand. Your enemies don't need your explanation, they need your results. They don't need to hear your plan, they need to see your execution. They don't need your promises, they need to witness your transformation. The same mouth that lied about you will eventually have to speak your success. And that's a far sweeter victory than any argument you could win. You know what nobody tells you about being hurt? Nobody tells you that the person who wounded you is actually terrified of what you're capable of becoming. That's right. Every insult, every betrayal, every closed door in your face, it wasn't really about you. It was about them. It was about their fear of your potential. And today, I want to show you something that will change the way you see every enemy, every critic, every person who ever tried to diminish you. There's something brewing inside you right now. If someone has wronged you, if someone has stolen from you, if someone has lied about you, there's this fire burning in your chest. You want them to hurt the way they hurt you. You want them to fail. You want them to see what they lost when they betrayed you. And you know what? That feeling is natural. It's human. But what I'm about to tell you is going to redirect that fire, because revenge isn't about destruction. Real revenge is construction. Real revenge is becoming so successful, so fulfilled, so powerful in your purpose that their opinion of you becomes irrelevant. Listen to me carefully. When a manufacturer creates a product, that manufacturer alone holds the specifications. When you buy a phone, you don't call your neighbor to ask them how it works. You go to the manufacturer's manual. Now, here's what happened to you. Someone who didn't create you tried to define you. Someone who doesn't have your blueprint tried to tell you what you're capable of. Someone who didn't manufacture you tried to set your limitation. And the tragedy is, too many of us believed them. We accepted the definition from unauthorized sources. Your enemies don't have your specifications. They don't know what you're built for. They can't see the capacity installed in you before you were born. When they rejected you, they were operating outside their jurisdiction. They were speaking on matters they have no authority over, and you've been living beneath your design because you accepted their unauthorized assessment. But today, you remember who manufactured you and for what purpose. Now let me tell you something about human nature. People don't attack what they don't fear. Nobody wastes energy trying to stop something that poses no threat. When you see opposition, when you see resistance, when you see people working overtime to block you, that's not evidence of your weakness. That's evidence of your power. They see something in you that you haven't fully seen in yourself yet. They're afraid of the giant sleeping inside you. They're hoping you never wake up. They're praying you stay distracted by their insults, paralyzed by their rejection, obsessed with their betrayal. Because as long as you're focused on them, you're not focused on your assignment. There was a young man, a brilliant inventor, working day and night in a small workshop. He had a partner, someone he trusted, someone he shared every idea with. They were building something revolutionary together, something that would change their industry. But one night, this partner took all the blueprints, all the prototypes, and disappeared. 3 months later, the young man saw his own invention being sold under his partner's name. The patent was stolen, the credit was gone, and everyone believed the thief was the genius. Most people would have spent the next 10 years in court. Most people would have become bitter, angry, consumed with getting even. But this young man did something different. He said, if I had one idea, I have more ideas. If my mind created that once, it can create again. And he went back to his workshop. He didn't talk about what was stolen. He didn't campaign to clear his name. He just built one invention after another, one patent after another, one innovation after another. 15 years later, that young man owned a manufacturing empire. His name was known worldwide. His products were in millions of homes. And the thief's company had collapsed. The stolen invention became outdated. And the man sat in obscurity. No, not for innovation, but for theft. The young inventor never sought revenge. He never had to. His success was louder than any accusation he could have made. His full life was the greatest response to the theft. You see, here's the principle. Your graveyard should be empty, but theirs will be full of regrets. What do I mean? Most people die with their dreams still inside them. Most people let one betrayal kill 1,000 possibilities. Someone steals one idea, so they stop creating. Someone rejects one proposal, so they stop proposing. Someone closes one door, so they stop knocking. And they go to the grave with books unwritten, businesses unstarted, inventions uncreated, songs unsung. Their graveyard is full of what could have been, full of what should have been, full of the life they were meant to live, but didn't, because they were too focused on the person who wronged them. But your enemies, the ones who betrayed you, the ones who rejected you, the ones who counted you out, they're going to have a different kind of full graveyard. Theirs will be full of regrets, full of the realization that they had access to greatness and pushed it away, full of the knowledge that they could have partnered with a giant but chose to fight one instead, full of the memory of the day they saw your success and realized they could have been part of it. This is the opposition paradox. The very people trying to stop you are actually confirming your value. Think about it. No one throws stones at a tree without fruit. Nobody wastes ammunition on an empty target. The fact that they're investing energy to block you, to discredit you, to undermine you, that tells you something valuable. You're a threat. You're carrying something they wish they had. You're going somewhere they wish they could go. And instead of asking you how to get there, they're trying to make sure you don't arrive. Now, I need you to understand something about pain. Pain is raw material. Betrayal is crude oil. Rejection is unrefined potential. And what you do with it determines everything. See, crude oil in its natural state is messy, toxic, unusable. But when you run it through the refining process, it becomes fuel. It becomes energy. It becomes power that moves vehicles, that lights cities, that transforms economies. The same substance that was worthless in one state becomes invaluable in another. The difference? The refining process. Your pain is sitting there right now like crude oil. It's messy, it's toxic, it's making you bitter, angry, restless. But if you run it through the refining process, if you let it be transformed, that same pain becomes the fuel for your greatest achievements. That same betrayal becomes the energy for your biggest breakthrough. That same rejection becomes the power that launches you into your destiny. But here's the key. You have to make a choice. You have to decide whether this pain will make you bitter or better. Whether it will break you or build you. Whether it will stop you or fuel you. Every single person who ever accomplished something significant has a betrayal story. Every successful individual can point to a moment when someone they trusted turned on them, when someone they believed in walked away, when someone they invested in stole from them. The difference between those who made it and those who didn't isn't the absence of pain, it's what they did with the pain. The ones who made it converted it. The ones who didn't stayed stuck in it. They rehearsed it every day. They told the story over and over. They kept the wound fresh. And 20 years later, they're still talking about what someone did to them 2 decades ago. Meanwhile, the person who wronged them has forgotten and moved on. But they're still imprisoned by it. Let me tell you about a young woman who dreamed of making a difference in education. She was a teacher, passionate, dedicated, innovative. She developed new teaching methods that helped struggling students excel. Her classroom was transforming lives. But there was a principal at her school who felt threatened by her success. Parents were requesting her specifically, students were thriving under her instruction, and instead of celebrating her, this principal denied her promotion. Not once, not twice, 7 times over 4 years. She was passed over for advancement. Less qualified teachers were promoted. Teachers with lower results were given opportunities. And every time, it was the same principle blocking her path. Most people would have become resentful. Most people would have started performing poorly to match their treatment. Most people would have quit or spent their energy fighting the system. But this young woman did something brilliant. She said, if they won't promote me here, I'll promote myself somewhere else. She started staying after school, tutoring students who needed extra help. Word spread. Parents from other schools started bringing their children to her. She was teaching in a classroom all day and tutoring in her home all evening. Was she tired? Absolutely. Was she frustrated? Without question. But she refused to let someone else's jealousy determine her contribution. Within 2 years, she had saved enough money to rent a small space. She opened a learning center. 3 students the first week, 15 students the first month, 50 students by the end of the first year. Her methods worked. Her passion was contagious. Parents saw results. 5 years after that principal denied her 7th promotion, her learning center had expanded to 3 locations. She was employing 40 teachers. Her methods were being adopted by schools across the region. And then something remarkable happened. That same principal who had blocked her called asking for a job. His school had failed inspection. He'd been let go. And he needed employment. She hired him. Not to humiliate him, not to get revenge, but because she understood something powerful. Your deniers often become your employees when you fulfill your purpose. The people who rejected you will often end up working in the empire you built after they pushed you out. But here's what's beautiful. By the time they arrive, you've grown so much that you no longer need revenge. You've become so focused on your mission that their approval doesn't matter anymore. You hire them because you need good people, not because you want to prove a point. This is what I call the assignment in opposition. Sometimes the person blocking your path isn't stopping your assignment, they're revealing it. That principal didn't stop her teaching career. She was always meant to teach. But his opposition showed her she wasn't meant to teach in someone else's system. She was meant to build her own. His rejection was redirection. His denial was actually divine protection from a position that was too small for her destiny. What looked like her ceiling was actually the floor of her next level. But here's what made the difference for her. She stayed silent. She didn't argue with the principal. She didn't campaign for the promotion. She didn't gossip about the injustice. She didn't send angry emails. She went silent and went to work. And this is a principle you must learn. Strategic silence is power. When you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, you release energy. When you stop defending yourself to people who have already decided you're guilty, you free up time. When you stop arguing with critics who have never built anything, you create space for construction. Your results will introduce you better than your words ever could. That teacher didn't need to tell anyone she was excellent. Her students' results spoke for her. She didn't need to prove she was capable. Her thriving business proved it. She didn't need to defend her character. Her success defended it. And this is the maturity you must develop. Not everyone needs to understand you. Not everyone needs to approve of you. Not everyone needs to celebrate you. You just need to fulfill your purpose. And when you do, the right people will find you. The right opportunities will locate you. And the wrong people will become irrelevant. Now we come to the most critical part. Everything I've told you means nothing if you don't execute. You can understand that your enemies reveal your value. You can know that pain is fuel. You can recognize that opposition is redirection. But if you don't build, if you don't create, if you don't act, you'll still be sitting in the same place 5 years from now, talking about what someone did to you, and that's exactly what they're hoping for. They're hoping you stay distracted. They're hoping you waste your energy being angry instead of being productive. They're hoping you spend your days planning revenge instead of planning your next move. While they're talking, you must be building. While they're spreading rumors, you must be developing skills. While they're celebrating your setback, you must be preparing your comeback. And here's the danger. Construction is loud. Building makes noise. When you're hammering, sawing, laying foundations, creating something, it's impossible to simultaneously answer every critic. You have to make a choice. Do I stop building to defend myself, or do I keep building and let the finished product speak for itself? There was a software developer, talented, visionary, years ahead of his time. He was developing an application that would revolutionize how people manage their businesses. He had a business partner, someone handling the sales and marketing while he handled the code. They were months away from launch. The developer trusted this partner completely, gave him access to everything. One morning, he woke up to find the partner gone. Not just gone with the source code, the client list, the marketing materials, everything. 3 weeks later, he saw his own application being advertised under a different name by his former partner's new company. Now, the developer had a choice. He could spend the next 2 years in litigation. He had a case. He had evidence. Lawyers told him he could win. But he calculated something. 2 years fighting in court meant 2 years not developing. 2 years explaining what was stolen meant 2 years not creating something new. And here's what he understood. The code that was stolen was already 6 months old in his mind. He had new ideas, better features, more efficient solutions. His former partner stole yesterday's innovation, but the developer still had tomorrow's. So he made a decision that looked foolish to everyone around him. He let it go, not because he didn't care, not because it didn't hurt, but because he calculated the cost of revenge versus the cost of progress. He went back to his small apartment, back to his laptop, back to coding 18 hours a day. No press releases, no social media rants, no campaign to clear his name, just work, pure, focus, relentless work. 6 months later, he released a new application. It was faster, smarter, more intuitive than the stolen one. 8 months after that, he released another update. Then another 18 months after the theft. His application dominated the market. The stolen version looked ancient by comparison. Users were abandoning his former partner's platform in thousands. The developer's name was everywhere. Industry awards, magazine covers, conference keynotes. And the thief was stuck managing an outdated product he didn't understand, couldn't update and couldn't improve because he didn't have the mind that created it. He had stolen the fish, but the developer kept the ability to fish. Within 3 years, the thief's company dissolved, the stolen application was discontinued, and the developer was running a $50 million enterprise. This is the principle of staying current. Staying angry keeps you in the past. Staying focused keeps you ahead. The developer understood that his greatest revenge wasn't exposing the thief. It was making the theft irrelevant. It was building something so superior that what was stolen became worthless. And this is what you must understand. Your enemies can steal your idea, but they cannot steal your creativity. They can copy your product, but they cannot copy your innovation. They can take what you made, but they cannot take your ability to make. Now let me talk to you about the compound effect. Small daily improvements versus 1 day of revenge planning. This is mathematics. If you spend 1 hour every day plotting revenge, that's 7 hours a week, 30 hours a month, 365 hours a year. That's 15 full days annually spent on someone who wronged you. 15 days you could have spent learning a new skill. 15 days you could have spent building a business. 15 days you could have spent creating something valuable. And what do you have to show for those 15 days? Nothing. Just more bitterness, more anger, more frustration. But if you take that same 1 hour every day and invest it in your development, in your craft, in your purpose, something magical happens. Small improvements compound. The first week, you might not see much difference. The first month, people might not notice. But 6 months in, you're unrecognizable. 1 year in, you're unstoppable. 3 years in, you're undeniable. And 5 years in, people are studying your success story, never knowing that it began with a betrayal you refused to let define you. Your enemies expect you to quit. They're counting on it. They think the wound they inflicted is fatal. They believe the setback they caused is permanent. They assume the door they closed was your only entrance. And when you keep showing up, when you keep improving, when you keep building despite what they did, it disturbs them. Not because they care about you, but because your persistence exposes their own quitting. Your consistency reveals their inconsistency. Your refusal to stop makes their reasons for stopping look like excuses. There was an athlete, 16 years old, trying out for the regional team. He trained for months. He sacrificed everything. The day of tryouts, he performed well, or so he thought. But when the list was posted, his name wasn't on it. The coach told him he wasn't good enough, didn't have the natural talent, should consider another sport. That night, the young man could have quit. Everyone would have understood. But instead, he made a decision every morning. While the team practiced, that young athlete was running alone. While they had professional coaching, he had YouTube videos and determination. While they had access to the best facilities, he had a public park and worn-out equipment. But he had something they didn't have, a fire that rejection lit. For 3 years, he trained in isolation, 6 days a week, rain or shine, early morning before school. He never spoke badly about the coach who rejected him. He never complained about the unfairness. He just ran, lifted, practiced, improved, 1% better every single day. 3 years later, the national team held open tryouts. That same young man showed up. He was faster, stronger, more skilled than he'd been at 16. He made the team. Not just made it, he became a starter within 6 months. Within 2 years, he was representing his country internationally. And here's what's remarkable. The coach who rejected him, the one who said he wasn't good enough, was at one of his national games. After the match, the coach approached him, and in front of other coaches and media, he said something powerful. He said, "I was wrong about you. You proved me wrong. And I respect that." The young athlete could have been arrogant. He could have rubbed it in. He could have humiliated the coach publicly. But you know what he said? He said, "Thank you for pushing me to prove myself. Your rejection made me work harder than your acceptance ever would have." And in that moment, something became clear. He had grown beyond the need for revenge. His success had elevated him to a place where the old wound didn't hurt anymore. Not because he was pretending, but because he had genuinely outgrown it. This is what happens when you focus on building instead of destroying. You arrive at a place where your enemies become irrelevant. Not because you're avoiding them or pretending they don't exist, but because you've moved to a level where their opinion carries no weight. You've built something so substantial, accomplished something so significant, become someone so secure that their approval or disapproval doesn't register anymore. It's not on your radar. They've become background noise in a life full of purpose. And here's what nobody tells you about this moment. When you finally succeed, when you finally arrive, when you finally become undeniable, you'll feel something unexpected. You won't feel the satisfaction you thought you'd feel. You won't want to dance on their failure. You won't want to remind them of how wrong they were. Instead, you'll feel something closer to indifference, maybe even pity. Because success changes you more than it changes them. The journey to the top transforms you so completely that by the time you get there, you're not the same person who was wounded. You're not the same person who wanted revenge. You've been refined by the process. There's something I call the elevation effect. When you succeed genuinely, when you build something real, you naturally remove yourself from toxic environments. You don't have to cut people off. Your altitude does it for you. Think about an airplane taking off. It doesn't fight with the ground. It doesn't argue with the runway. It simply ascends, and the higher it goes, the smaller everything on the ground becomes. That's what happens with your success. The people who hurt you, the situations that wounded you, the betrayals that devastated you, they all become smaller. Not because they weren't real, but because you've risen above them. You'll have new problems at new levels, better problems, bigger challenges, more significant decisions. And the old battles will seem so trivial from your new vantage point. You'll wonder why you ever lost sleep over people who were never going to rise with you anyway. You'll realize that their rejection was actually protection. They weren't supposed to go where you're going. They couldn't handle the altitude. They would have slowed you down, held you back, or sabotaged you at a higher level. Their exit was a gift you didn't recognize at the time. Now let me tell you about legacy. Because revenge is temporary, but legacy is permanent. When you spend your life trying to prove your enemies wrong, what do you leave behind? Stories of conflict, memories of bitterness, a reputation for being reactive. But when you spend your life building something meaningful, creating something valuable, contributing something significant, you leave behind impact that outlives you. You leave behind a name that means something. You leave behind work that continues after you're gone. There was a fashion designer who attended one of the most prestigious design schools in the country. But her style was unconventional. Her designs were bold, different, nothing like what was trending. Her classmates ridiculed her sketches. Her instructors questioned her taste. During her final showcase, other students received applause. But when her collection appeared, there was awkward silence, then scattered laughter. She graduated with the lowest marks in her class. The others went on to work for major fashion houses. She went back to her small town. But here's what they didn't know. She kept her unique vision. She refused to copy what was popular. She stayed true to her unconventional aesthetic. She started small, making custom pieces for locals. Slowly, her reputation grew. Her designs started appearing in small boutiques, then larger stores, then international markets. 20 years after that humiliating showcase, her designs were in museums, her techniques were being taught in fashion schools worldwide, including the same school where she was once mocked, her former classmates, the ones who laughed. Most never left their hometown studios. Some quit fashion entirely. None achieved anything close to what she built. The principle: originality outlasts imitation, always. The people who mocked her were copying trends. Trends die, but vision lives. They were following what was popular. She was creating what would become popular. They were imitating success. She was defining it. And this is your choice today. Will you spend your energy trying to fit into their mold, proving yourself to their standards, seeking their approval? Or will you stay true to your unique design, your original vision, your authentic self? Here's the final truth about revenge. The best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right. It's becoming who you were always meant to be. It's fulfilling the purpose you were created for. It's living so fully, creating so abundantly, loving so deeply, contributing so significantly that their opinion becomes irrelevant. Not because you're avoiding them, but because you're focused on something bigger. Your enemies didn't stop you. They redirected you. They pushed you away from a path that was too small for you and toward a destiny that was perfectly sized for you. That job you didn't get, it would have limited you. That partnership that fell apart, it would have held you back. That person who betrayed you, they would have sabotaged you at a higher level. What looked like rejection was actually divine protection. What felt like failure was actually course correction. So yes, kill them with success. But understand what that really means. It means while they're talking, you're building, While they're explaining why you can't, you're showing why you can. While they're celebrating your setback, you're preparing your comeback. While they're spreading rumors, you're spreading impact. While they remain prisoners of their own bitterness, you walk in the freedom of purpose fulfilled. Your best revenge is becoming uncommon. Your greatest comeback is becoming unstoppable. Your ultimate victory is becoming yourself, fully, completely, unapologetically. And when you do, when you finally become who you were always meant to be, you look back and realize something profound. They didn't defeat you, they delivered you. They didn't diminish you, they defined you. Not by their words, but by forcing you to prove those words wrong. Not by their actions, but by pushing you to take actions you wouldn't have taken otherwise. So stop planning their downfall and start building your rise. Stop rehearsing their wrongs and start writing your next chapter. Stop waiting for them to apologize and start living like their approval never mattered. Because it doesn't. It never did. The only approval you need is from the one who created you. The only validation you require is from the purpose inside you. The only permission you're waiting for is the permission you give yourself to be great despite what they said, despite what they did, despite what they took. Go build your empire. Go create your legacy. Go fulfill your purpose. And let your success be so loud, so undeniable, so magnificent that it drowns out every lie they ever told about you. That's revenge. That's victory. That's the life you were born to live.